2025 was all about experimentation. It's about testing my speed on the roads and seeing what the marathon was all about. It was loud, it was fast, and it was unforgettable. But for 2026, the goals are a bit different. It's time to put the roads behind me and get back to the mountains. Welcome to my 2026 roadmap. In this video, we'll take a look at the 2025 season and everything that the marathon did for me, as well as the 2026 season and what the ultra marathon holds for me. See, unlike my last ultra marathon attempts, I'm taking a much smarter approach to this one, including a stepping stone race schedule that will have me lining up at a 100 miler in the fall, hopefully more prepared than I was for my last 100 mile attempt. So to start things off, let's take a look at 2025. Beginning early last year, it's when I really set my sights on the marathon. The Pittsburgh Marathon being a local race was the first one that came to mind. So I signed up for it immediately beginning in January. But I knew I had some key races I needed to hit before I got to that point. The first one being the Mesa Half Marathon in Mesa, Arizona. Mesa was a solid option to choose, especially because it was a super flat race, which would allow me to really test my training up to that point. I was super excited at the end of this as I set a new personal best in the half marathon with an hour 33:34, which beat my previous best by about 10 minutes, so I was pretty happy with this result. Building off the confidence of the Mesa Half Marathon, I continued my training leading up to the Pittsburgh Marathon. However, during that training, I would unfortunately lose my job, which would take a hit on my training leading into the marathon with about 3 to 4 weeks to go. However, I still felt prepared heading into the marathon, so I was very excited come race day. Being my first crack at the marathon, I didn't really know what to expect headed in. I had a mix of anxiety, excitement, nerves, all of it wrapped up into one, especially once that start line gun went off and we took off out the gates. Now, being in one of the front lines, the pace was quick and things got off to a really quick start as I started bobbing and weaving around people, which would end up proving to hurt me later in the race. But for the time being, it was okay. I would continue through this race feeling pretty good for the most part. I had gone in with a plan to just use Tailwind's liquid fuel, their high carb mix to be specific, which would end up being a marathon rookie mistake number 2. But that's okay, you live and you learn. As the race went on, once I hit about mile 13, I couldn't really take any liquids in anymore, and kind of things went downhill from there up until the finish. So if you wanted to see more on that, I do go into more detail in the video itself, so be sure to check that out. But I would end up finishing in about 3.5 hours, so I was very happy with that for my first marathon attempt. Now, coming off of that marathon attempt, I was still riding that high and I wanted to have a crack at the marathon again, knowing the mistakes I made and how I could improve upon them. So I narrowed it down to a few options before settling on the Indianapolis Monumental Marathon in November. So in between that time, I was actually communicating with the Quebec Maritime Tourism Board, who invited my fiance and I up to run a couple races in Quebec. We had the opportunity to run the Beluga Ultra Trail, which was a 30K trail race on very rocky, very rooty terrain that had a lot of ups and downs, but ultimately ended up being a fantastic race. I did make a video on that you could check out. A week later, we would run the Ultra Trail for Orion, which was a 3-day stage race, which was 50K in all. You can also check out this video on my channel that I covered every day in detail and showed you exactly what you can expect from this race if you were to ever think of doing it. I highly recommend both of these races. They were a lot of fun to do, and shout out to Quebec Maritime for the opportunity to do that. After that, it was a lot of training and a lot of miles leading up to the Indianapolis Monumental Marathon. Now, I did learn from my mistakes in the previous one with fueling. I switched to more energy gels, a mix of liquid calories as well. So all good on that end. I would get to mile 20 before I would actually hit the bonk. The problem not being fueling, but actually being my pacing in the beginning, where I had some errors with my watch, as well as just running too fast on my own. And I would come across the finish line, beating my PR by about 1 minute. Now, I'd be lying if I wasn't disappointed with this result. I truthfully expected the flatness of the Indianapolis Monumental course to play more in my favor than the hills of the Pittsburgh Marathon, but I can only take those lessons into my next marathon, whenever that may be. Now, moving on to the 2026 race schedule. As I mentioned, I will be focusing on ultras and more trail races this year, so I'm super excited about that. But to start things off, in a couple weeks, I will go out to Mesa again and actually run the 10K this time. Then in a couple months, I will actually return to Pittsburgh as well, the place that tortured me almost exactly a year ago. I will be running the half marathon this time. I think this will be a good test after a few weeks of base training and building up to my first event, which will be the Rock 50K, which is a UTMB race. One of my goals that has been a goal of mine, arguably since I started trail running, has been to run one of the UTMB races. Rock 50K is the first step towards that, as the 50K will net me 2 running stones that I can use in the UTMB lottery. It does look like an amazing race through the hills of Pennsylvania. Super rocky, super rooty, trails that I'm used to. I'm from Ohio, so right next door. Very used to those trails and excited to run that 50K come May. Now, I mentioned that I was following kind of a stepping stone race schedule. The 50K is the first step in that. Following that, in July, I'm going to be running the Trans Rockies Pub to Pass Full Pint race, which is a 3-day stage race as well, 50 miles, however, this time. So I'll be jumping from the 50K, 50 mile. This is probably one of the races I am most excited for, simply because of the scenery. The scenery is going to be unbelievable in Colorado. I'm very excited to just take you all along with me throughout that whole process, because I think that is going to be a super fun race. Very much looking forward to the Trans Rockies run in July, and that'll be the second step along the way towards the 100 miler. And finally, of course, the main event and the final stepping stone of the race schedule will be the 100 miler. And the race I am targeting for this is the Grindstone 100 miler, which is also a UTMB race. Now, I'm super excited for this one because this was a race I'd signed up for a couple years ago, now the 100K, not the 100 miler. And I ended up breaking my toe and never had the opportunity to run it. But at the time, I was staying near Shenandoah National Park, and running through that area was absolutely amazing and one of my favorite places to run. So I'm very excited to return to that same place, and I might not be as excited when I'm running the race, but to run 100 miles through those exact mountains. Everything is ultimately practice for that race and to prepare me and hopefully be able to troubleshoot all of the things that that race could throw at me. Preparation is the best thing you can do, and I feel the 50K at Rothrock and the 3-day stage race 50 miler in Trans Rockies are excellent preparation leading to those. Now, with all of that said, I want to talk about what you can hopefully expect from the channel this year. One thing I'd like to focus on is more training vlogs and more of the running vlogs behind the races themselves. I feel a lot of people get value from seeing other people's training and the things people are doing and takeaways from that. And I feel I'm no different. Beyond those, I hope to publish more of the runumentary documentary style. I am a novice videographer, but one thing I've started to focus on more is trying to make longer documentaries out of those races and telling more of the stories in those races, because I know a lot of people find value in that, a lot of people relate to that. So thank you all for watching. I'd love to know what you all want to see from this channel and what you'd love to see more of in the weeks going forward and the months going forward. So if you'd love to follow along on this 100-mile journey, be sure to hit subscribe, and can't wait to take you all along with me. And until next time, run fast, travel slow.